Welcome to my channel. Today we are going to talk about another very important topic, that is type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. Type 1 and type 2 hypersensitivity reaction has been discussed in the previous videos. This reaction is basically also called as immune complex reactions. Immune complex reaction. Now what is basically immune complex? Whenever an antigen, either it is a self antigen or it is a pathogen or it is a drug, whenever an antigen enter into our body, antibodies against these antigens are being formed. Okay, and these antigen and antibodies, they will interact with each other, and a complex antigen antibody complex like this will be formed. These are antigen, they are antibodies, and this complex will be formed. And this is basically, this complex antigen antibody complex is basically called as immune complex. In type 3 hypersensitivity reaction, what happened that these complexes become too large to become solubilized in the blood, so it means they stay insoluble, and they become too large to be phagocytosed by the phagocytic cells like neutrophils and macrophages. It means they will stay inside the circulatory system or inside the tissue. And whenever these immune complexes, they will deposit on the tissue or on the wall of blood vessels, they will start a kind of inflammatory reaction, immune reaction, that will basically cause the cellular damage. This reaction or this type of sensitivity is called as type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. I have told you that the antigen, they can be foreign, they can be self, they can be some kind of drugs, and the antibodies, they will be either IgG or IgM antibodies. No other antibody can take part in type 3 hypersensitivity reaction, because as we know that these are the antibodies that can basically activate the complement system, complementary system of proteins. We have talked about the detail of the complement system, their different pathways, their activation, and their pathway of cellular damage has been discussed in the previous video. But in this video I will just talk about the role of complement system with respect to type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. If you want to learn more about the complement system, you have to visit my previous videos. The reaction after the antigen and antibody complex or immune complex will deposit on the tissue or wall of blood vessel, the reaction can be local immune reaction or they can be systemic immune reaction. In case of local immune reaction, only local tissue edema or pain or local redness on the specific tissue will be seen. But in case of systemic infection, a generalized systemic reaction will be seen, like swollen lymph nodes all over the body, fever, redness, scars on the body. So both type of reactions can be seen in the type 2 hypersensitivity reaction. It depends on where these immune complexes will deposit. As I have explained, that these immune complexes, they can deposit either on the wall of blood vessels or they can deposit into a specific tissue. Okay, if they will deposit in the specific tissue, that reaction will more specifically will be called as Arthus reaction. And if they deposit on the wall of blood vessels, they will be called as type 3 hypersensitivity reaction, or we can say serum sickness reactions. Now let's see what happened. Once the antigen will enter into our body and antibody has been produced, either IgG or IgM antibody has been produced by our immune system, the antigen antibody complex will be formed, that will be called as immune complex, immune complexes, ICs. Immune complexes will be formed. And suppose that these immune complexes deposit on the wall of the blood vessels because they are too large to be phagocytosed by any neutrophil or macrophage or any other phagocytic cells. So they will deposit on the wall of the blood vessel. We know that when we were talking about the complement system activation, where we studied that these Fc portion of antibody, they can activate the complement system. The first of all C1q will be activated, then C4b, then C2b, then C3b, then C5b, and similarly a chain of complement protein activation will start. For example, first of all C1q will attach on the Fc portion of the antibody, then C2b will attach, then this C1 and C2b, they will convert C4 into C4b and C4a. Now this complex, they will convert all these complex of these four protein, they will be able to convert C3 into C3a and C3b, and C3, all the B's will start joining together. Now all these C1, C2b, C4b, C3b, they will combine together and they will be able to convert C5 into C5a and C5b. Now this C5b along with C6, along with C7, along with C8 and along with C9, a complex will be formed, and this complex will be called as MAC, membrane attack complex, and they arrange themselves, they get themselves arranged to form a pore-like structure. All these protein, they will arrange themselves to form a pore-like structure, and once this pore-like structure will attach on the nearby bacteria or pathogen, a pore will be created in the wall of those pathogens, and obviously permeability will be disturbed. The required component will start leaking outside of the cell, and the undesired harmful component will start getting inside the cell. Ultimately, what will happen? Ultimately, the survival of this bacteria will not be possible. Okay. Similarly, in this case, the immune here I have explained the Fc portion of the antibody will first attach C1q, and then all these C3a, C5a and all other membrane attack complex will be formed ultimately. But this membrane attack complex will not be able to attack on these cells, because these cells, all the nucleated cells, they do have MAC neutralizing protein or MAC inhibitor proteins, which will not let the formation of membrane attack complex. So it means in this case, membrane attack complex will not be formed. Only C3a, C5a and C3b will be formed. Rest, the membrane attack complex will not be formed in this case, because the nucleated cell do have MAC or membrane attack complex or MAC inhibiting proteins. So now what will happen? The C3a and C5a, these are the very important proteins that are going to play a very important role in the type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. We have seen in the complement protein videos that C3 can cause the release of histamine from the basophil cells, and we know that histamine is has very inflammatory, is a very pro-inflammatory molecule. It causes inflammation, it causes redness, it causes leakage of fluid, it causes bronchoconstriction, it causes difficulty in breathing. So histamine is a very pro-inflammatory molecule. Similarly, we know that C5a, it causes a chemotaxis. Chemotaxis, like it will attract the nearby immune cells, neutrophils and macrophages, more specifically neutrophil at the site of attachment, where the immune complex has been attached. Other neutrophils and other white blood cells will start moving toward this side because of this C5a. Similarly, it will cause a transmigration of other white blood cells from the blood vessel as well. It will start attracting neutrophils from the and macrophages from the blood vessels, and they will start moving toward this site. and once they all will reach, they will cause the inflammation or they will cause the cellular damage. One more thing is that is going to be happen, that these FC portion, they have receptor on the neutrophils, and once these neutrophil and the interaction between these receptor, these FC portion and these receptor will be taken place, these neutrophil will try to phagocytose these complex. But as I have explained earlier, that these complexes are too large to be phagocytosed by the macrophage or neutrophils. So what will happen? They will start secreting cell damaging proteolytic enzymes. Cell damaging proteolytic enzyme. So the cellular injury or inflammation will start being taken place at the site of immune complex deposition. Okay, so this is the basically general mechanism. I have skipped few steps because the detail has been given in my previous video. If you want to learn more about these complement system and the reaction, how MAC will be produced, what are the role of C5A, C3A, all these description has been given in my previous video, so you can visit those videos. Link is given in the description. At the start of this video, I told you that these immune complexes, they can deposit either on the wall of blood vessel or either on the either in some specific tissue. For example, here you can see post streptococcal glomerulonephritis. This is the example of type 3 hypersensitivity reaction, in which what happened, that antibodies against the glomerular antigens will be formed, and the complex of these antigen antibody and immune complex, it will deposit in the glomerulus, and it will cause the type 3 hypersensitivity reaction in the glomerulus. Okay. Similarly, in the systemic lupus erythematic reaction, these immune complexes will start depositing in kidney, under the skin, in some joints. Okay. Similarly, in the drug-induced serum sickness, there are certain drugs like penicillin, cephalosporin, sulfonamide, phenytoin. All these drugs, they can form immune complex with certain drugs, and they can deposit on the blood vessel, and they can start the immune reaction. So drug-induced serum sickness is also an example of type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. Well, I will try to add one point, that drugs are basically molecules. They are basically called as heptane. Heptane are those molecules which itself cannot activate immune system, and antibodies cannot be made against these drugs if they are alone. Now what will happen when they will enter inside the body? There are certain heptane carrier molecules. They will attach with those molecules, and then the heptane, these are called as heptanes. These heptanes and their carrier molecules, then heptane carrier. So heptane plus heptane carrier complex will be formed, and that complex will be able to induce the immune reaction, and that complex will be able to intrigue our immune system to produce antibodies, and then the antigen and antibody interaction will be taken place, immune complexes will be formed, and those immune complexes will be attached on the wall of blood vessel, and all these reaction will be taken place as I have explained. So it was all about type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. One thing I would like to add, that only IgG and IgM antibody can take part in type 3 hypersensitivity reaction, because other antibodies cannot activate complement system. Only the FC portion of IgG, FC portion of IgM can activate the complement system. And you know that the complement system is playing very important role in the type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. So this is the reason only IgM and IgG can take part in type 3 hypersensitivity reaction. I hope you like my video. Please don't forget to subscribe and press the bell icon so that you may get notification for the future videos. Thank you.